Today I've got a surprise package that just arrived. Let's open it up and see what's inside. An old school Shindaiwa EB854. This is their 4-mix machine. This uses an engine out of an airplane drone that has a timing belt, just like a car engine. These are fantastic machines that make a ton of power. The first generation machines were blue, called the EB8510. This is the second generation machine with an updated fuel tank, and they took care of some of the issues that the blue machines originally had. There was a recall in the blue machines due to fractured blower flywheels, and the proximity of the muffler to the fuel tank was burning holes in the fuel tank. So if you have a blue machine, it goes in for a recall to get a new fuel tank and a new fan. These red machines did not suffer from those issues. They only made these for a handful of years. I think the EPA finally shut that idea down. But if you can find one of these, grab it, because they are fantastic blowers. One of the unique features that these have is a turbo mode, which is completely full throttle, and then a lower decibel mode. This is the lower decibel mode, and operating the switch changes you from only getting about half throttle to being able to get complete throttle. Kind of a neat idea. I have no idea what condition this machine is in, whether it runs or not, and we're going to go through the process of diagnosing and actually restoring this. We'll start with a typical inspection of the air filter. We've got a missing air filter fastener at the top, and the bottom one is broken off. Fuel hoses are removed from the carburetor, at least the return is. Got screws missing here and here. Okay, let's dig into it. There should be a foam filter in the air filter case. Oh my gosh, that smells so bad. I can smell the fuel from here. It has reduced itself down into a syrup of turpentine. It smells just like paint thinner. So that's sad, because that is a very expensive carburetor. Probably $85 for that. It's also been sitting out in the sun for a long time, so all the plastics are wrecked. It's always entertaining to see the fuel filters. Oh man. That is amazing. Oh, that's the fuel that's gotten up into the carburetor too. It's not going to be pretty. And the hose is just so gummy. I'm going to take off the engine cover real quick, show you this very unique engine. Rusted in place, right into the engine cylinder. Okay, let's see if we can get this one to let go. Putting coil here is not going to do anything really. We'll go behind it and see if we can't get some coil to wick in there on those threads. A lot of times if you rock a rusted fastener back and forth, move it in the tightening direction clockwise until it starts to hang up, and then come back in the loosening, go a little bit further with each rotation. What you're doing is you're clearing all of the rust that gets piled up on the threads as you start to unscrew, and that's what winds up wrecking the threads, both on the fastener and inside whatever it's threaded into. So you're going back and forth as you can create some gap. Now this will move away a little bit. We have enough room now, we can get some more coil in there. I can feel that bolt in there. And then I'm going to go all the way back in until it tightens. And now come out. Now we're making some progress. And you'll feel it stop hanging up as you rotate counterclockwise in the loosening direction. And as you feel it not hang up anymore, you're free to start unthreading it. If you still feel it hanging up, you know you're still piling up rust and galling the threads. So keep going back and forth, full tight to a little bit further loose, and you'll get it out. And you can see on these threads what was happening in there. Starting to get all smeared and galled. So before this goes back together, I will use a tap to recut the threads in the engine, and then I'll put a new fastener on it because this one is ruined. You could retap this if you wanted to reuse it with a die. These are 5mm by 0.8 thread pitch, but they're just so rusty. Nicer to just replace them and start with another one. Okay, and I give you a drone engine. So timing belt running in here just like on a car. It's got a couple of rocker arms that function up in here like on a normal automotive engine. Really a cool design. I'm a huge fan of these. The spark plug is located at the rear, and what you see on top there, that metal probe, is a cylinder head temperature sensor that shuts the ignition off if the engine overheats. They have the small spark plug, so it's a standard small 5/8 automotive socket for the spark plug removal. CMR 5H NGK plug. And let's see what it was running like last. Not bad, I don't mind seeing a dark plug like that. There's no flecks of material down inside it, so let's see if we've got spark, and then we'll do a compression test. Okay, blinky light test in the shade, so you guys don't get robbed of a nice spark test. That's the $12 Lysol spark tester. You can get it on Amazon and other places. I use it all the time. Not a good sign when that screw is loose. That means somebody's had the cover off and has been into the timing belt. They have a timing mark on them. You'll see it's right there. And you'll see the case right here has a little arrow sticking down, so those need to face each other for top dead center. And then down inside, and hard to see with the shadows, there's a mark for the cog that is the crankshaft. Let's see if we can get these to break free and not strip out. They are very rusted. When you have hardened steel against aluminum and it starts to rust that bad, you know that it's going to be tough to get them apart. So they've all come loose. These have a rubber gasket that sits in this channel. It's stuck to the top of the cylinder head. I'm not going to disturb it for now. And I'll show you what's inside. That's exhaust. There's overlap. Here comes intake. And there is top dead center. And if we come back out, you can see our mark is lined up with our mark there. So that's good. Let me stick an Allen tool down inside the cylinder and touch the top of the piston and see where it's at. It is right at the top. Yep, there's the dwell where the piston stops moving. So it's all in time. We have TDC for the cam. I know with my tool in the back there that I have TDC with the piston lined up with the center here, and I have a cam lobe that is straight up and down. So it's in time. That's great. Well, we can do a little valve adjustment check. We got some gap there, not very much. And we have gap there. Alright, quick compression test, 130, and I could no longer hold it still with one hand while pulling it over, so it's got plenty of compression. So let's see if it'll run on TriFlow for a moment. I'm a fan of copper anti-seize on the threads of sparking bolts, so let's put that back in and then see if it's kind of a runner. Okay, spark plug is installed. Timing cover is back on. Alright, let's give it a little choke. See if he'll start. I like that. Let's give it a little more TriFlow and no choke. It's alive. Alright, since we know that it does run and it's got great compression, let's deal with what's left of the carburetor. And then we'll make a parts list and get everything ordered for it. This is that double stack style of carburetor that has the pump flaps and the metering diaphragm all in the same area. So let's pull this apart, see what's going on inside it. I'm surprised that the purge bubble looks so good. It should be thrashed, so maybe fuel didn't make it all the way up to the carburetor while it was sitting in storage, and maybe this won't be so bad inside. My hopes are not high. There's a check valve inside this little orange piece that fails, and there's another check valve just inside that pump housing. So just the failure of this piece alone is the death of the carburetor. This is actually soft. Oh, the fuel has just turned into oil. Wow. Same situation here. Okay, diaphragm, actually soft and very nice, slathered in that oil. No way to tell yet if that's any good. Pump flaps are actually not too bad. I'm going to lift them out of here and take a look at the jet that's in the middle. There's a jet right inside there. These are, yeah, they're too stiff. It might run as is. Okay, I cleaned the carburetor with Berryman's Chem Tool, just a light spraying off of everything, and I put it back together. Good enough for testing for now. So let's do something about this fuel system. That's going to need a little tri-flow to loosen itself up and come out of there without breaking the fuel tank. There we go. This is the fuel tank vent. When they get all caked like that, the little duckbill vent that's on the inside here below that little filter won't breathe, so the machines will shut off after about 15 minutes. These are available separately, about $7. I'll see if I can pop this one apart and just clean it for our test today. We'll take the rest of this apart. I like to save and reuse these little metal rings that act as hose clamps. Okay, we can get our little jacketing off now. Pull the old fuel hose back and forth. Could just cut it off, but there you go. Okay, let's clean this up. Okay, the fuel system is rebuilt. This is a Walbro 125528 fuel filter. If you're wondering how to get these little retainer rings back on the hose again because they want to move out of the way, or if they're up here you can't slide them back down, leave them in that position that you find them in, like you see in this photo. Keep your fingers up against them and just push the hose on. And if you put a little tri-flow on the fitting that's on whatever you're pushing the hose onto, it'll slide on, and as it slides on and your fingers keep the ring from moving, the rings actually have, it's a spiral, so those two spirals will let go and the rings will expand and go right into place and they slide right on, no big deal. Then shove your fuel hose up through the grommet from the bottom, grab it from the top and pull it through. If you put a little tri-flow on the fuel hose, it'll slide nicely. And you can use your old hoses as a reference for cutting your new hoses. So we'll put the little plastic sleeve back on this and install it. Carburetor on now. Give the throttle cable a little bit of tri-flow. We will adjust the play in the throttle cable using this assembly in a moment. Threads are currently hanging up on it, but let's see, there it goes. Alright, so we'll leave that just flush for now and then hand tighten that. When installing your good used gasket, make sure that the port for the engine pulse signal is in that lower 7 o'clock position, and it'll line up with the port that's in this intake block. Always make sure your intake block is tight and not broken around the outside edges. Some machines will vibrate these loose and then create an air leak. So we'll slide that onto the carburetor mounting bolts and then just move the whole thing into position. Get these started by hand. And tighten them the rest of the way. Fuel hoses are next. feed line is the black one. It goes over to the barb that has the ridges on it, and I'll put that little ring retainer at the top and just push the whole thing on together. When you're doing this, try to center your fingers on the hose so that you don't sort of push too hard on one side and then the barb cuts through the hose. These new clear Co-Line brand return lines are snug, so I'm going to give that a little tri-flow. It has a different style retainer that can be put on afterwards, so see how far we can get that to slide on. And then it's got one of these little pinch style units. Like that. Okay, it is all back together, pending all the nice new parts that I've ordered for it. Let's see how we do. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped you out.